What's up everybody, welcome to another process video. I'm going to show you how I created a piece of art for one of my favorite artists, 1000. He offered up an art challenge. The theme of the challenge, or the art prompt, was reaching new heights, and you can basically create anything you want in your medium, so music, sculpture, poetry, photography, whatever. Of course, I decided to do a painting. I wanted this painting to have real meaning for me, and I think that was kind of the challenge in general, to try to find something that related to reaching new heights but also resonated with you. So after a good bit of thought, I ended up focusing on the idea of meditation. So meditation, for me, the practice of meditation has been really helpful in helping me focus my thoughts in the past, and I feel like I'm always, through meditation, trying to reach new heights and new levels of consciousness. So I read somewhere that artists have messy minds, and I absolutely feel like that's true for me. There's just always so many thoughts and ideas, so many scattered directions, running through my mind. And meditation has been a really good way for me to help calm all that down and sort of focus, what I'm thinking about and how I'm approaching life, and helping sort of calm the chaos and bring order to the chaos. And for me, the more I practice meditation, the better I get at it. So I'm always sort of reaching new levels and new heights of expanding my awareness, if you will. So as I'm working on this piece, I'm thinking about a very rough direction where I want to go. I wanted to try to visually represent that chaotic life that I'm talking about, those little demons, those inner demons, those external factors, those things that distract you and get in your way of moving forward and progressing. And so that's what these little goblins that I'm working on now are supposed to represent. Down at the bottom of this piece, I wanted to add in all these little creatures that they're kind of funny in a way. Actually, they're kind of comical. They're not completely evil, but they're meant to be there to sort of pull you down. Um, so the sky up here would be more chaotic shapes and elements, but they would be uh, becoming more organized in the center. And I wanted to have that idea reflected not only in the geometric shapes that were happening, but also in the color patterns. So be more colorful in the center, more beautiful, becoming more organized. On the outsides, the fringes, it would be more messy and chaotic and abstract, and that would sort of blend into these creatures down below. So again, as I'm working on this, I have a very loose idea of where I want to go, but I'm not trying to be perfect with the application of the paint. I'm just trying to build up layers and add in, block in colors. And I love working with this old house paint brush. It's very stiff and worn out and rugged, and it's really great for dipping into the paint and making some interesting textures very quickly. So in the back of my mind, I always had this idea that I would put some sort of a deity or a figure up in the sky, and here I'm just putting in some more flat color, just kind of prepping for how big the image, the element will be. I originally wanted to do sort of a seated sculpture like a Buddha, and it was going to be very solid and sort of floating. But as I continued working on this, I kept my mind open to the possibility that I might, do something completely different with that area. And I really liked the elements, how these overlapping circles created this geometric pattern. And this is a pattern that I didn't make this up. I looked up online sacred geometry, and I found several simple geometric patterns that could work, ones that I felt like I could just pull off fairly easy. And I do this a lot with paintings. As I'm working with a specific color, I'll use that color and I'll bounce it around to different parts of the painting, just to sort of scatter the color around, and overall it helps pull the painting together, if that makes any sense. So here I make a pretty radical change, and thankfully I had a large enough paper to do this. The square felt really restrictive to me. It felt like the geometric shapes in the center did not have enough room to breathe. It was very cramped, and so I chose to break those boundaries and widen the painting, and it really helped, in my opinion. I feel like now it was sort of closer to the vision that I originally had, which was there were all these more toned down, chaotic shapes that were coming, sort of crystallizing in the center into a more organized pattern. And it gave me room to expand sort of the goblins and the creatures and stuff at the bottom as well. And I felt like at this point, this was kind of a turning point for me, and that from here on in, it was just going to get better and better. I want to say that I know this is kind of a longer video than what I normally do, and I actually cut quite a bit of the footage out and obviously sped it up a great a great amount, and trying to figure out, when is the right time to show real-time painting, how much do people want to see, how much is actually helpful. So that's always a challenge for me, but I'm doing my best with it. Hopefully you guys are finding something interesting out of this. Here I'm just continuing to build up texture in different areas. You probably noticed I started scratching into the paint a little bit with a palette knife, adding more texture and depth, and creating some interesting shapes and effects. And as I'm doing this, I want to say there really isn't, in my mind, a real plan here as far as a process of step by step. I think that I just put down color and sort of experiment with what does it look like when I scrape my palette knife through it. And when something seems to work, I just continue to repeat that pattern until I feel, like it's getting where I need it to be. And I always, again, with acrylic, know that I can cover things up and try new things. You're never stuck, really. And I always stop to observe and take my time and look over the whole thing and see what seems to be working, and also looking for areas that need attention, and just taking chances. I felt like the blue here needed some brighter blue bleeding into it, and I just threw some down and started bouncing around the painting and finding other areas where I feel like I could add balance by doing the same exact color, and just working through it. I have to say too, this is a very cathartic process. Like, I have a lot of fun actually doing this technique. I don't know how to explain it. It's like exercise, or I imagine music or something, running, whatever. It's a very fun, freeing experience for me. Yeah, so I just continue to do this for hours and hours, bouncing around the whole piece, listening to music, listening to podcasts, audiobooks, taking breaks to text with friends. Um, no, but at this point, I really do just move my eye across the entire piece and find areas that feel out of place, things that need more texture, more color, anything I can do to unify the whole image and make it feel like it's one coherent statement. And you can see here that, it's hard. Well, maybe you can't see here, but on one side there's a lot more gray, and on the right side there was a lot more red. So to me that was pretty obvious that I needed to bring the gray across the entire sky and tie all that together, and that's what I'm doing here. And I'm sure you've noticed, I certainly noticed when I was watching the video and taking pictures of this throughout the entire process, that the center of this painting really started to glow. And it was pretty amazing to me, actually, the effect, because I wasn't expecting it to be that strong. But I think I definitely learned something in this process. If I ever need to do a painting where I'm trying to make an area glow and feel like it's coming, being illuminated from within, I think that I'm on the right track here. I've talked about this before, and I'm sure other people have too. There's always a point where you feel like your painting is really ugly, it's a complete disaster, and you're not quite sure it's going to work out. And I think I'm past that point here, and I remember feeling like, okay, if I just continue adding texture and building up layers, and I see the areas that need to be strengthened, and there's still some things unresolved. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to solve certain things at this point, but I feel pretty good about the direction, and I'm just like, okay, now it's just production work. I just need to crank through all this, and it'll come together. And I often stop, take a break, again, look things over, walk away, come back, and say, okay, reevaluate. Where am I, and what do I need to do next to really pull this off? At this point, I decided to go ahead and work on the main central figure that was going to be up in the sky, and I chose to go with a more graphical approach and just do a simple face, and I'm very happy that I did that. I think a sculpture of a floating Buddha would have been probably not the easiest thing for me to execute, for one, and two, I think it would have felt a little bit out of place. And as I was doing this face, I really liked the transparent nature of it and how it was sort of fading in, like it was appearing out of nowhere, and it felt just more peaceful, calm, and mystical. So obviously this little meditating figure is supposed to represent, I guess, me or anyone who's meditating. And it's smaller than it looks, I think, actually. And I also feel like I probably could have left this as a simple, sketchy, gray figure, and it would have been just fine. But I chose to paint it teal. Uh, Not that he'll notice, but 1000's favorite color, one of his favorite colors, is teal, and it's also one of my favorite colors. And I didn't use a lot of teal in this uh, painting, so I felt it would stand out down at the bottom. And so I'm just working on this little silhouette with a very tiny brush. I did have a figure photograph that I was referencing just for the outline and general shape. This is one of those things where I've always wanted to do little figures and little tiny, you know, details, and I've never tried it, or haven't tried it very often. So it gave me a chance to play around with that, and I thought it was pretty successful. I ended up using a toothpick for some of this to just sort of dab on some tiny details. And yeah, here again, I am taking a break, looking it over, drinking some coffee, thinking about it, figuring out like where I want to go next, seeing little areas that need to be touched up, and that's pretty much all that's left at this point. Is just, and also there's a deadline here, right? That's another point I wanted to make is, I'm running out of time, so whether I like it or not, I need to finish this thing and get it to a point where I feel like it's at least presentable and I can be proud of it. I've also already shared this with several people just to get their opinions on it, and feel like that's a good thing sometimes, just to see if other people are responding to it before I send it off to one of my favorite artists and have him judge it. Uh, and everybody liked it so far, so we're good to go. And again, I'm just finishing up minor details here. One of the last steps is I seal the whole piece with an isolation coat, an acrylic isolation coat, and I'll end up varnishing it as well with satin varnish. Um, I photographed it before that step so that there was less reflections. So here's how the piece turned out. I was really proud of it, actually. It's a little different. It's a lot different, frankly, from the things that I normally do. And I always like taking on these challenges that sort of push me to a new direction. You never know where it might lead. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really had fun putting it together. It took a lot longer than I thought it would. Also want to mention I did use some gold paint on here, and I think that really sort of set off certain areas and worked really well. So yeah, hope you liked the video. Let me know what you think. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and catch you next time. Peace.